Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Black Book Podcast. Today, I have a guest called Samy. Well, her name is Samy. I shouldn't say called Samy. Her name is Samy. And Samy also hosts a podcast, basically from China, just talking about her experiences. It's called What's the Chinese Tea, if I'm correct, Samy? Yeah. So we'll get into that later on. But Samy, really quickly, can you just give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Hello. Well, obviously, like the host said, my name is Samy. I'm originally from the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, but I reside in the States. I've been living in China for, this will be going on year 2. I actually just came back after being abroad for 8 months, but that's a whole nother story. I host a podcast, What's the Chinese Tea? And it's kind of just talking about my experiences while being a Black expat, a Black teacher in China.
All right, cool. And so you're originally from DRC, and you came to the States. How old were you when you came to the States?
I was 6 months old when I came to the States.
Oh, okay. So you're fully a matriculated United States citizen by this point.
Yeah.
Probably should. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I didn't get my citizenship until like 2016. So.
Really? Mm-hmm. Does it take that long, or is just like a decision was made later?
Yeah, it's a decision I made later. I turned 18 and my dad was like, okay, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't want an American citizenship. I don't want it. And then I got to college and then I wanted to start traveling internationally, and it was just difficult to travel with a Congolese passport. And because with Congolese passport, you're not allowed in a lot of places without getting a visa. And the visa process was just a lot more extensive for like Africans in general.
Yeah.
But so it was like, I guess I have to go ahead and do this. So that's how I ended up getting it.
Yeah, I try to stress that to people, people who are originally from the United States, like, dude, like, y'all got to get out here and travel. Y'all don't understand the power of this passport that we have. Like,
Hey.
or had, whatever, you know. But before COVID, there was like 99 plus countries Americans could go to without a visa. As long as you had a passport and a flight, you can go there, no problem.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And so like, it's crazy. I mean, cause like when you're in China, you meet so many people who are of the same country as you, but like that number of people that you meet has not, like, it's not even close to the people at home who have never been to another country before. And so like, I always try to tell people like, dude, you gotta just get out. It don't matter where you're going, just go. Like, you don't got to go to China because I'm in China. You can go to Brazil. You can go any of the 54 countries in Africa. You can go to Europe, whatever you want to go. But yeah, enough about what I'm talking about. So I want to know what led you to China at first.
Well, this was back in 2017. I had met my significant other. Okay. And we both love to travel. And so we kind of we were stuck in a rut at home. Like, we wanted more for our lives, and we knew there was more. And at the time I was a manager at CVS, and I was just like, come on, I have a degree. I like to think of myself as very intelligent. And I was just like, this is not life. This can't be it. Okay. So I just kind of was like trying to figure out different avenues and things like that I've always wanted to live abroad. That was something that for me was non-negotiable. It's like, I'm going to live abroad at some point in my life. And so fast forward to, he got an invitation to a dinner party. And then he came home and told me that he met some lady and just in daily conversation was like, hey, she just naturally, when you meet somebody, hey, what do you do? And she was like, oh, I just got back from Dubai. I work in Dubai. And he's like, oh, how did you land a gig like that? And she was like, oh, I teach. And he's thinking maybe she was like excellent, really excellent at her field, that the Dubai government wanted her. You know what I'm saying? Like when you hear
Mm-hmm.
like at first it was like, oh, you must be like the creme de la creme, like to be recruited like that, And
Right.
she was like, oh no, all you need is a degree and a passport. And so he came to tell me this, and I was just like, okay. So I went on Google, the research tab came on, and it was so many different ways, and I was just like, I've heard of this in college. I just always assumed you have to have a like teaching degree. So I
Right.
never even expanded on it in college. So I was like, oh no, you don't need a degree and da 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 da. So we originally were looking into the Middle East, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we read and he's got his master's in education. So I was like, perfect. And he's a guy. Let's face it, the Middle East favor men, whatever.
Right.
So awesome. Middle East, here we come. Psych. And so it didn't work out because like he just didn't have the experience. And with like the Middle Eastern countries, you have to have at least, I think, like 2 or 3 years teaching experience.
Yeah, Dubai want
So
experience. Yeah.
so then I just kept doing more research, and Asia popped up. And we originally wanted to actually go to Korea. That was actually where we wanted to go. We figured that there's the expat groups that I was in were very Black centric, very Black friendly, and there was just a lot more resources on how to get to Korea versus how to get to China.
Mm.
But in that process, I got swooped up in the recruiter of China. And that's kind of how my story ended up happening. Yeah, we originally wanted to go to Korea, but China took us.
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of people end up in China. They want to go somewhere else, but then because Chinese jobs recruit so hard, they do a lot of heavy recruiting for international teachers. So like they usually get sucked in. But it didn't happen to me because I wanted to go to China, but I know quite a few people who got sucked in by those Chinese recruiters. Yeah, so that's how you got abroad, and so you've been teaching the whole time you've been here.
Yep. I've been
What have you
teaching
been
the whole
teaching?
English.
Okay. Like what grade level?
So they equivalent here, they call it kindergarten, but in the States we'll probably call that preschool age. So like ages like 3 to 6.
Okay, yeah. All right. Uh, so before coming to China, did you go anywhere else abroad? Or was this your first time living abroad?
Well, this is my first time living abroad, but I've
Okay.
been abroad.
Where'd you go?
I've been to Canada several
Okay.
times. I know everybody's like, I'm like, man, yeah, Quebec, Vancouver, Niagara, Toronto, So I've been
Yeah.
to Canada.
Yeah. I mean, like,
yeah, and then I've been to Barbados. So those
okay.
are the only 2 countries that I've managed to get to as far as
Okay.
abroad is. But yeah, I've been abroad.
All right, yeah. I mean, you have that abroad experience, but in my mind, this is just my opinion. Places like Canada, Mexico, and the Caribbean, do they really count as abroad? Because
Yes. If you need a passport to get into that country, it's abroad. Okay. It was a 6-hour flight from Chicago to Barbados. Don't try to play me now.
As an American citizen, you do not need a passport to get into those countries. All you need is a birth certificate and your ID.
To get into Barbados?
I'm pretty sure. No.
You look it up. You need a passport.
Well, I know Canada, Mexico, and a lot of Caribbean countries, you don't really need a passport. You can just use your birth certificate and your ID.
Well, I don't have a U.S. birth certificate for starters, so maybe for everyone else, I don't know. But I've never heard that from even people who are born in the U.S. that, oh, I go with my birth certificate and it's fine. Yeah, maybe to Puerto Rico.
I mean, that's not to say that like that's what people use, but you can use that. I mean, like nobody wants to travel with their birth certificate because like, what if you lose that fucking birth certificate? I mean, like, don't get me wrong, people aren't traveling with their birth certificate, but you can to certain places.
Interesting.
You can, as an American
Well,
citizen. Like, you can't go to Europe with your birth certificate or China with your birth certificate. Obviously, you need a
well,
passport.
I'll tell you what. They stamp my passport, so it counts as a bribe. What you think is your business?
That's why I said this is my own personal opinion. Besides the fact that I know you can use a passport, I mean, I know you can use a birth certificate. But anyway, let's get back on topic. Um, so, while being abroad in China, besides your podcast, which we will talk about soon, what else have you gotten into?
Pretty much, I've been trying to just kind of lay low for a little bit. I am in the process of starting 2 businesses, so
Okay.
I'm not into too much detail there, but yeah, they're kind of in the works in terms of like the legal aspects of it and things like that, because to start a business in China without a Chinese backing or a Chinese partner is
Mm-hmm.
quite the feat. So I was working on it pre-COVID, and so I was supposed to start it in February. Well, no, I was supposed to start it in March because that would like deem my like 1 year anniversary, and then things happened.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of picking that back up, and then once I leave quarantine, take some meetings, and then we'll see what happens there.
What kind of businesses can we get a little bit of information? Without saying what you're gonna
Well,
be doing and where.
well, one of the businesses is service based, and the other one is product based. There you go.
Okay, so you're servicing people and you producing products. All
Yes, yes,
right. Okay, all right. So I guess I have to be out on the look for your services and your products.
pretty, pretty much.
All right. So do you have like a so I know you just came back
Mhm.
from America for your over long stay. Um, that was a surprise. Do you have a time limit of like how long you want to be abroad, or do you want to go to another country in the future?
Well, the original plan was for me to stay 3 years and then revisit where I'm at, because I have certain goals that I want to accomplish before I
Okay.
go. And
Okay.
so, depending on the status of those goals, if they've been met and I want to move on, I want to stay abroad as long as abroad can let me stay abroad, if that makes any sense.
Right. Yeah.
And then revisit. But now that like almost my second, what would have been my second year is pretty much gone, I'm like adding an additional year, so it'll be 4 years. So we'll see
Yeah.
in 2023. We'll see where I'm at, and we'll see what's going on, and
Yeah.
then we'll go
That's
from
what
there.
everyone says, because when I first got to China, I told myself back in 2016, I was like, oh, I'm only going to be here a year, and here I am 4 or 5 years later with no plans on
Right.
going back
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. No, I don't. I said revisit. Like again, that's
Okay.
going. Revisit where I'm at. And be realistic with what's going on by that point. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, so let's get into this podcast of yours because I've listened to almost every episode of your podcast besides the one that has come out. I think it came out
Uh-huh.
yesterday. Was it yesterday?
So 2 days ago.
2 days ago. All right, yeah. Because I've been in contact with other people. So like since I've had this podcast, people are like, oh, you should listen to my podcast. Oh, you should listen to my podcast. And I go like, all right, I'll listen. But nowadays I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna listen to everyone's podcast because it's just too much. Like, because
Mhm.
they're already like the famous podcasts that I like, and then I gotta listen to my own podcast, and then obviously I listen to the podcasts of people who I actually interview. But whatever. So into your podcast, like, what made you start this podcast?
Well, I was too lazy to start a YouTube channel, and so and I've done radio before, and I think for me it would just been an easy feat for me to kind of upkeep. I don't
Okay.
have to do too much with the podcast in terms of like at least with girls. When we do YouTube, makeup got to be right, the lighting's got to be right, your hair's got to be right, your clothes from upward on, and you have to be, and you know what I'm saying, like you have to be
Yeah.
able to attract attention, right? And I
Right.
just
Right.
don't
Right.
have kind of time. I don't have that kind of patience. And so I said, you know what? I think the podcast is better. I like to think that I have a great voice. It's funny. I'm funny. I'm great at engaging people. And again, I have experience in radio. So that was just gonna be a natural transition for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how that came about.
Yeah. So you just decided to start a podcast. And what made you start the podcast on the topic that you are currently talking about, which is like your experiences in China as a Black person?
Well, I think for me, a lot of people, including myself, prior to getting to China, had a misconception of China and the Chinese people. And
Mm-hmm.
so I thought it was important because a lot of people knew I was moving abroad. They wanted to see and hear firsthand account of my daily life or what goes on or just the random differences that we experience as foreigners. And so I thought this would be kind of a way to allow people into my space and allow people into my life to see China through a different set of lenses rather than the lenses of the media and of propaganda and things like that. Oh, China's this and China's that, China's this, China's that, da, 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 da. But here's someone who lives here. This is someone who works here. This is not someone who's just, I came here for a vacation and I'm leaving. No, I actually live here, you know? So I think that was why it was very important for me to have this podcast to give accurate, detailed information to people because I feel like it's a sense of just responsibility as well. So
Yeah. I get that part about the misconceptions about China a lot because when I first moved to China, people want to ask me like, "Oh, do they have any like besides Beijing and Shanghai like how are they
mm-hmm.
living and do they actually have like great technology there? Do they live in huts?" And it's like, dude, they have some of the hugest some of the hugest buildings ever in the fucking world.
Oh yeah,
Like,
architecture is sick. The
yeah,
architecture
architecture is like huge, and then like the question about do Chinese people really eat dog? And I'm going, the average Chinese person actually does not eat dog. However, there is a small town in China
yeah.
that eats dog, but they've been eating dog for thousands of years. This is like some shit they started 20 years ago. They've been doing this for thousands of years. So it's like a part of that little small town's culture. So nobody really fucks with it. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of like the misconceptions I get about China. And I get other questions, but like those don't really matter. Sometimes I don't really answer them back. So in your podcast, like you usually talk. So the last episode I listened to was your episode about um coming back from America to China.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a very important, very interesting, very detailed, informational about what it takes to get from China, to get from the US to China during COVID-19, which is, because like that's where people are trying to go, right? They're either trying to go to the United States or they're trying to go to China from now on. And like from at least people in my circle, my expat circle, like if they're not in China, they're trying to find out how can the hell they get back to China. And so can you briefly, you don't have to go into much detail as you did in your podcast. Can you just briefly just tell us like what exactly did you have to go through?
Well, I was lucky in a sense of before I left, I had renewed my residence permit. So my residence permit actually expires 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So I was lucky in that sense. Before the official announcement of the borders kind of opening up, I would have had to go through another phase of getting what they call PU letter, which is the same thing as an invitation letter. So my school was already in process of me getting that letter.
Right.
So when the border opened up and you can come on your current now resident permit, or you were going to come on a new visa. Either way, you were coming back, right?
Right.
So for me, the day the announcement broke was actually the same day I got my PU letter. So, it worked out. But yeah, you're gonna need a letter of invitation, and then you're going to need, now the rules they literally just changed last night. It was supposed to be you have to get tested 3 days before your flight.
I heard
Now
that.
they
Yeah.
they now changed it to now you have 2 days and now you have to get 2 types of tests. Whereas before it was you just have to get the regular COVID test, and now they're asking for the antibodies plus the COVID test. So obviously my advice or my feed is just stay as updated as possible, because literally again I just got here on the 20th, not even a month, the policies have changed. So just try to stay as updated as possible because the rules clearly change all the time. So
Welcome
yeah.
to China. They will change on you in the
Yeah,
blink of an
overnight.
eye. Yeah.
Overnight. Literally overnight.
Yes. That is the, I don't want to say the consequences, but like that's just how they live in an authoritarian regime. Like, shit can just change. Besides, like, America or another country that has like a democracy where like you actually have to go through a process. That's like no process. There's a process in China, but like civilians aren't really a part of that, or they don't really know how it goes for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so you had to get all those things, and then what else?
Once I got, well, since I didn't need the letter and I already had my resident permit, I just had to go schedule my COVID test. So I had to strategically time out the COVID test because it was not when you got tested. The rules at that time were when your results came, your results had to be within 72 hours of your flight. And
Mm,
so I had to strategically schedule my COVID test. So I had actually taken 3 COVID tests just to ensure that I was going to get results in time, because some places were telling me 3 to 5 days, but they were coming in 24 hours. Some places were telling me 2 weeks and it came in 3 days, so I had to strategically just kind of say, okay, when, let's hope these come at this time and this day and, type of thing.
right.
So so once I got that, it was just my school booked the flight and, I don't want to say it was smooth sailing, but yeah, I got, I'm here. But yeah.
Yeah, and if you guys want to listen to more detail about how she got from the US to China, I would encourage you to check out her podcast, What's the Chinese Tea? You can find it on Apple and Spotify, and I'm pretty sure it's on other
Mm-hmm.
platforms because she uses the same distributor as me, Anchor. So, I'm pretty sure it's on at least 8 different platforms. um, so from the US to China, now you're in quarantine. Can you give us just briefly how has quarantine been going? What the hell have you been doing? And when is quarantine over for you?
Okay, so quarantine will be over on Thursday. I am scheduled to check out at 11 a.m. Quarantine has kind of been, so quarantine has been like okay. Like I'm stir crazy, but I think I've went over the worst of my stir crazy, and now I'm kind of, because it's starting to wind down for me, that I'm kind of just like, all right, sis, you've made it 10 days. You go, these next 4 just gonna fly by you. So what I've been doing, obviously I've been trying to record episodes for the podcast, as well as trying to stay active, meaning that I put on a YouTube little 10-minute workout just to get my body moving, because there's not much you can do in a hotel room as far as like working out. And, I don't have my mat to like do floor stuff, and I don't want to just be on the floor because it's like, yeah. So just trying to stay active. I'm reading, and then also I'm in grad school. So grad school started back up last week, so just kind of catching up on doing assignments and things like that. So, and I'm talking to friends and family back home as well. So that's been helping me pass the time. Nothing really like exciting has been happening. It's just like, like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
What's today?
Okay, all right. So, and after your quarantine, where will you be going in China?
I will be going to a city called Chongqing.
Chongqing.
So
Okay.
I'm super excited for that. I love
Yeah, I
Chongqing.
know.
So
I know Chongqing. I'm in Chengdu, so that's where I live.
that's actually where
Um,
I'm quarantining.
you're actually quarantined in Chengdu.
Hmm.
Can you leave your hotel?
I can't I can't leave nothing, nowhere, nobody.
Are
Literally
you
to
sure
go
about
out.
that?
I'm positive.
Because when what was it, 3 or 4 weeks ago was Chinese National Day, and I was in Shanghai, and there was this guy who actually lives in Chengdu as well. He came back. He's from the UK. He came back earlier, like I think like a month or two before that, and he was quarantined in Guangzhou, and
Mhm.
he said like yeah he had to do all these tests and all this other stuff like that like regularly, but he was able to leave his hotel like whenever he wanted to. That's what he said, and I was just like, really? I was like, I don't think that's how you're supposed to do that. But
No.
he was like, yeah, I left the hotel and yada yada yada, and there was no problem, and I just got back when I was I was like, okay, all right, hopefully you
I don't
didn't
know
catch
anybody
anything.
that has done that. I've talked to a lot of people and I'm in a lot of groups, and I don't think anybody has been able to leave their hotel room, like, at all. I don't know. And again, Guangzhou is its own.
His
Yeah,
own thing.
Guangzhou's
Yeah.
different. Yeah, but
Mhm.
yeah, no. I literally can open my door, take the trash out, pick up the food, pick up my quiety, and close the door, open the door, get my temperature checked, and that's it. Like, I can't even like roam the hallway. Like, no, no,
Wow.
it's not that kind of party.
It is really strict. It's really, really strict, huh?
It's,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. And
that's
so
yeah, that's that big, but that's quarantine though. The definition of a quarantine is you don't make
you
essential
don't go
trips. Like,
anywhere.
you don't go anywhere. That is a definition of a quarantine. That's
That's
not,
true.
oh, we're quarantined, but I'm staying home. But hey, I'm running to Walmart. Hey, I'm running to the grocery store. Hey, I'm going here. No, you're not. That's not a quarantine. That's not even a stay-at-home order. That's just, hey, we advise that you make essential trips. And again, that's not my business nor my tea. But whatever,
Right,
whatever
right,
comes.
right. I feel you on that. All right. So, let's move away from quarantine. Just I want to ask you about your entire experience so far being in China. I just want to know, like, have you had like a terrible experience, or like do you have like what would people say is your worst experience so far being in China? It's outside of COVID, maybe.
You know what? I haven't really had a bad. Well, first of all, if I had a really bad time, I wouldn't come back. I wouldn't have.
Okay.
No, that's. But I've had annoyances.
Okay. Like
Um,
what?
I'm already super um eerily
Agitated.
optimistic. No. I'm
Mhm.
eerily optimistic about a lot of things, and I don't let a lot of things agitate me.
Okay.
Um, and so I feel like I knew coming here is going to be a learning curve,
Okay.
not with just language, but just how things are done. It's going to be a
Okay.
learning curve. I can't come to China and expect y'all supposed to do things like America. It doesn't work that way. It does
Right.
not work that way. And so I think the sooner you understand that, I think the better off you'll be. You'll just you honestly expect nothing. You literally just are just like, hey, whatever. This is China. Like, you don't even have to, like, there's no rhyme or reason. And because if you sit here try to really break down the logic of what they do here, you're gonna be spinning your wheels. But I'm like, hey, this is how they do it here. All right, whatever. What do I need to do?
Yeah,
I'm
that
not.
is a good outlook on that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've had more so like minor annoyances, like, really, especially like with teaching and things like that. It's just like, okay, this is annoying. This is stupid. Like, why do you do it that way? But I think once I got out of my head, I was just like, all right, whatever. But I haven't had like, oh my God, this is terrible. No, not.
Okay. What about, so let's look at the opposite end of that. And what about, do you have like most memorable or favorite experience so far?
My favorite experience. Oh man, I got to go to Beijing and meet some of my friends that, like, I met on WeChat, which was really fun. It was a fun weekend. It was a fun girls' weekend. And because I was I think my family they weren't too worried because they just know me. They're like, Sammy's a butterfly. She's going to be fine. We knew it was going to take long for her to meet friends and find friends and things like that. So when I told her, Mom, I'm going to Beijing, and she's like, okay, what's in Beijing? And I was like, well, she said, oh, besides the Great Wall. I said, yeah, I have some friends. She's like, oh. And I think I was only in China, I think at that point, like 5 months. And she's like, you have friends already? And then you hear my dad in the background. It's like, is that a surprise to you? This is our kid. But yeah, I went to Beijing and I got to go to the Great Wall. I didn't get to do all the other stuff because of just time. I got to have a typical Western girls brunch, which was really, really fun. And just really explore the city because I was living in a really, what they call podunk, Yankee town, small town.
Which town was that?
It's called a city called Ya'an. It's in the Shaanxi province. Yeah. Yeah, nothing going on besides Mao Zedong. That was where he was born and did a lot of his upbringing. But other than that, it's just, yeah. So it was nice to like go to a big city and just be like, wow, And then I got to go to Sanya with my boyfriend. We celebrated our anniversary there, and it was so beautiful. It was hot. Ooh, it was hot, but boy, but it was so beautiful. The beach was amazing. The food was so good, and the people were super, super friendly down there. Super, super nice. But actually, now that you talk about experiences, the most annoying experience that I've had is when I go grocery shopping and like everyone is in my face trying to get a photo, and that is annoying. Like at first it was like, oh, that's cute. They haven't, because again, I live in a small town. There's 66 foreigners, 32 of us are teachers, 3 of us are Black. You know what I'm saying? So that was very annoying. I would get to a point where I got very anxious to go to the grocery store because it was like, I don't want to be mobbed for like a photo, or like I'm walking down and you're following me for a picture. And it was like, I would say that would be my most annoying experience.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of foreigners, even myself, I could live it. As soon as somebody bring out that phone and start looking at it, not today.
Yeah.
Not today.
Nah.
And it was like, like one of my previous guests on the show, S2E15, like she just like described this perfectly. It's like when you first move to China, it's like, you have googly eyes about it, and like it's really cute. And you think that you're some superstar and everything like that, but like after you realize it hits you that like, hey, I'm a guest, but like I ain't really going home no time soon. I actually fucking live here. Please stop taking photos of me.
And then you end up on all random pages. It's like I've had my school come to me and it's like, oh, we saw your picture on WeChat, and I was like, what are you talking about? Yo, dog, they got me at the Dairy Queen eating ice cream with my coworker. How my picture end up on at the Dairy Queen, my dog? Like I'm not performing. I didn't rob a bank. I didn't do anything noteworthy. I'm having ice cream with a friend, and my photo got my agitation level. When I tell you my agitation level was on 1,000, because I was like, is this what celebrities feel like when we're trying to just do regular stuff? We're not, like I said, I'm not even teaching. You know what I'm saying? Like I get it when I teach, there's pictures and videos and things like that. But it's like, I'm having ice cream. I'm at the Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen.
Yeah. I always decline photos unless it's like for a specific work thing that I know is only going to be used for like a specific thing. I always decline photos. No, I'm sorry. I'm not taking any photos. No, you cannot have my WeChat. No, you cannot do. No, I'm sorry. If I don't know you very well, no, you can't do that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, pretty much agree. I stopped taking, yeah. It was cute the first couple days, and then after that I was like, I can quickly see this being very annoying.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Um, just because I think we're almost about to wrap up here. Um, I want to ask you just I have a couple of random questions for you. I have a couple of random questions.
Okay.
Um, they're not too random. They're not too random. So I want to ask you, like, about being black and sort of being a traveler because you have traveled to other countries. Like, what's your like approach about being black and being a traveler, and or just on like how do you feel about being a black person who travels?
I don't really have I don't think I have any real feeling for it in terms of being black, because again, the two places I've went to, Barbados is pretty much
For you,
99%
yeah.
black.
Uh-huh.
So, I didn't feel anything or anything. And then Canada, again, I didn't have too much going on there in terms of like being sought out because I'm black type of thing, except
Right.
for the last time I went to Canada. There was a little bit of an issue there. Um, and that was very much annoying. We went to Carabana, and
Mhm.
then it was my cousin's 30th birthday, and we go to Carabana. We drove from Ohio all the way up to Toronto. We were getting ready to cross the border. Mind you, everybody in the car is got their documents, whatever. We're playing loud music. It's Carabana weekend, and for those people who don't know, Carabana is one of the largest Caribbean fest on
Mm.
the side of the hemisphere. And so we're just pumped. We're excited. We're excited to be here. It's our cousin's birthday. Like, we're just happy, right?
Right.
And so we show, mind you, both, there's two cars with us, two big Escalades, because there's 10 of us total, all black. Everybody in the car is black. So we're told to pull off to the side. So we're thinking, because we're the first car, we're thinking, okay, because our second car is behind us. So then we pull over to the side, and again, we're just happy at this point. And Borders Patrol was like, you all got to get out of the car. We're like, okay. Mind you, we're all like, we're confused. We've been driving 8 hours. We look like whatever. I'm like, why do we got to get out of the car? They searched all, like, I mean, when I tell you, and there was like 8 girls. When you travel with women, we bring things like we're going to go for 10 years, right?
Right.
Literally tore our bags apart. I mean, and because we had brought birthday gifts for the birthday girl, all of you ripped open underwear. Like, I tell you, underwear, bras, thing. Like, I don't know what this guy was looking for. Clearly, he was agitated because whatever he was thinking he was going to find, he didn't find. So they told us to go inside to the holding precinct. We're like, we didn't break any laws. We're not doing anything illegal here. But again, we're in Canada. At this point, we don't have any rights, right? So we get into the holding cell. There's another black family in the holding cell, as not holding cell, but the holding area. And we're just like, this looking a little suspect. So then we're just like, we sat there for 2 hours. two
Mm.
hours and they had all of our passports, and everybody that I came with happened to be from the motherland except for two of us. So they're looking at our passports like, couldn't say the names. They're just looking, and we were just like, 2 hours. We were like, what's the holdup? And it was like, well, we thought you had a gun in your car. You asked us if we had a gun in our car. We said no.
Right.
And then he said, well, the gentleman apparently the guy in our other car, the border patrol asked him, do you have a gun? He said, no, I have my my license to carry, but I do not have my gun on me.
Right.
When Canada runs, they run everything through you. So he was just thinking like, yeah, I have a gun permit, but I don't actually have my gun. I guess they heard something else and were like, I said, but you searched our car and you found nothing. So why wasn't that just an automatic, okay, you guys can go home? Why did you have to hold us here for 2 hours? What were you? They were like, oh, we were calling to see, essentially seeing if we had any warrants on us or anything like that. I'm like, but there was like 20 cars behind us and you guys chose our 2 cars? Like, there's just like, oh, you can have a good day. You guys can leave. You guys have a good day. So, I mean, that's the extent of yeah. It obviously didn't ruin our high. We had a good time. We were annoyed. We lost 2 hours of travel, but I think that's like for us, for at least for me, that was the most extent of travel racism that I've like experienced. Again, besides the random ish that we experience here of the staring and the taking of the photos and things, but yeah, I mean,
okay.
I feel like in China you're a foreigner first before you're Black, but that's just how I see it.
Okay, and my last question before we wrap up: is there anything you learned about yourself being abroad?
Yeah, I would say that I'm a lot more adaptable than I actually thought I was. I thought I was gonna have a hard time adjusting. It's because this is my first time living, abroad, and so I thought, and especially like such a diametrically different country like China. I didn't think I thought I was gonna have a difficult time adjusting, but I think that I just saw myself evolve into this person that I was like, oh, sis, you got this. Don't even worry. Like, the way I just adjusted, the way I just kind of assumed and just went into the role that I was into and allowed myself to just let things happen, because I have a little bit of a, I don't like to say this out loud, but I have a control issue, but to just allow things to, no, seriously, China stripped that away. Like, don't even try it. You know what I'm saying? So I think just allowing myself to just say, life is going to happen. When life happens, then you handle it. Don't try to handle life before. You know what I'm saying? So I think that I've learned that I'm a lot more adaptable. I'm very street savvy. I definitely can hustle. So I think that I'm very resourceful. So there was just a lot of things that I've always said that I was, but I don't think I was able to see it play in action. You know what I'm saying? Until I moved here.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. All right. And it's tradition at my show to give the last word to my guests. So anything you want to say, you have the floor, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay. Well, y'all check out my podcast, What's the Chinese Tea? It's available on all platforms.
Oh, thank you again, Samy. I appreciate you coming on the show. For everybody here, I'm Eric Charles. That's Samy, host of What's the Chinese Tea, and that's the Black Book Podcast. I'm just on a mission. I'm trying to live my dream.